So, today I want to talk about something really fucked up. And it's difficult subject of sacrifice. Sacrifice is the strangest part of the narcissist, abuser, and target relationship. This is going to get really icky for people that are very Christian, okay? But it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to, because ultimately this is a good point. This isn't a blasphemic point I'm making. So just relax about that. You'll see. The problem that the problem that we have in narcissistic families is that the target child is sacrificed for the psychological order of the family. I want you to really think about that. What you've got in a narcissistic family is rank disorder, extreme insecurity, almost hysterical, emotional instability. You know it's true because as the victim, as the target in that family, you experience the hysteria, the emotional instability, the insecurity of the situation. Everybody's ego is in the balance, and the target child is sacrificed so that the rest of the family can have a model of security, and that includes, as I touched on before, a way of looking at the world as not being chaotic, and also as a way of shying away from facing their own human frailties and failings and shortcomings, of which they fear being shamed. Because the horrible truth is, okay, that humans are not very good at their job. Parents are generally, at best, passable at the task of being parents. Adults are at best passable, if not heinously unqualified to be adults. People are led by a hunger for self-validation, power fantasies, sexual fantasy, by which I mean wild experiences without consequence. This is how we're made. This is what a balanced human being is like. Think about that. Because believe me, we, the target children, are not balanced. We are not healthy. We are highly disordered. But that doesn't mean that we're irresponsible or that we're selfish. But you see, if you look at it, if you look at our functionality issues, at our emotional dysregulation, if you look at it, we're in no condition to be taking leadership positions or to be taking, you know, sacrificial positions up. We can barely cope. We'll make ourselves cope, but that will be at enormous cost to our well-being. We're in no condition to take on other people's failings or responsibilities or pick up their shortfall. But that is what we are expected to do. And if we do it, if we're successful in doing it, they will never forgive us. And the most awful thing of all, there is a component in the narcissistic personality profiling tests for self-sacrifice. So the psychiatrists are even saying that there's a version of being a narcissist that is basically throwing itself under the bus, that there's a component of narcissism that'll do that, which begins to beg the question if even the target person, the scapegoatism, the scapegoat stigma group is also just a form of narcissism. That's what we're now, I think, what we're looking at. It might be a milder form, it might be a unusual form, but this is new to me, and I'm still processing it. But I think I know what they're trying to say. I think they're wrong. I think NPD, narcissism, rather than being a bit narcissistic, I think that NPD is a very, 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 very specific thing. And I don't think it's got any place being confused with being a victim of childhood psychological abuse, even if the child comes out of it a precocious wreck. However, the sacrificial element is interesting because one of the most impactful videos I ever saw was, and I keep forgetting the name of this YouTuber, and I'm really can't believe it slipped my mind again. One of the first ones I was watching, New York guy, older guy. He made a video. I'll try to put a note in the description if it doesn't come back to me. He talked about how when he found out about narcissism, he was filled with this like sort of overwhelming desire to reconcile with his abusive mother. Now that we had the answer, now that we had the, how did he put it? He was very brave to make the video he did. It was, I think he's narcissism survivor or narcissistic survivor, and there was a really specific word he used to describe the the emotion that overwhelmed him, and it was this kind of overwhelming desire to forgive and be sort of the bigger person, and you can see how that's inflated and slightly grandiose, right? But you see, it's understandable, and I know exactly what he's talking about. It's like, oh, see, now we can make everything all right. Now we can make the world, our world, a better. You see, all along, it doesn't have to be like this. And he talked about how he tried to reconcile with his mother, and how at first it seemed to go well, but it just made the next level of abuse even worse. So look, let's just make sure we understand each other, because I think we do, right? The narcissist doesn't want it to be better. They don't want everything to be okay. They don't want it to be solved. For them, as far as they're concerned, there is no problem. There is nothing to solve. If you went to a narcissist with a complex and impressively well-schooled set of information on narcissism, first of all, the only thing they're thinking about is the fact you're talking to them again. Secondly, they're trying to leverage the conversation and what you're saying to them into something they can control and benefit from. Thirdly, everything you're saying, every single thing, is going to be used against you. They will diagnose you as the narcissist. They may not tell you that's what you are. You've got to understand, it's incredibly important to the narcissist. Listen to me. Their sense of well-being depends on it. Can you imagine if somebody dared disrupt your sense of well-being by accusing you of something you haven't done, or going to the police about you when you've done nothing wrong? That's how you make the narcissist feel when you do anything other than submit, than fit in with the noose of the role they have set out for you. It's deadly what they're doing. It's deeply disturbing. It's not a joke. It's not a game. Although it plays like a game, there is no version of this where you are not at fault. Because, how can I put it so it's clear? Like imagine if somebody accused you of stealing, or worse, a crime you just didn't commit, and you're really looking at getting in trouble for this, you know? But in your mind, because you know you didn't do it, there is no version of this where you did it. There's no version where you did it. That's how sure they are that you're at fault and that they're in the right. I don't know how much more clearly to put it. So what I've learned in my recovery lately, and it's cost me a lot to think like this, and I'm really saddened by it, because I wanted my life to be about something else, and now I'm scared that the things I wanted my life to be about were pretty self-serving and grandiose. I wanted to prove that I wasn't everything the narcissist said I was, and everybody else that came down the pike too. I wanted to prove it by becoming a big deal. It's a really horrid sort of binary relationship with the rest of the world. You know they call it splitting in borderline personality disorder. Imagine that as a principle that can manifest in all sorts of ways, that's not just in the kind of breakdown of, say, you know, an emotional abusive argument or something like that. Imagine it just as a way of being, because everything is polarized. It's either completely good or completely bad. In the narcissistic sort of worldview and the mind view, you know. And that isn't how things, well, it can be true, but that isn't generally how things are. Sometimes it's true, but it's not. But not everything all the time. Usually things are organic and in a state of drift. So say if somebody, a grown adult, develops a gambling addiction, alright, yeah, by the time the gambling addiction becomes really sort of serious, it's purely bad. And now everything that led up to that point is, you know, bad. But they could have been a very, very mild gambling addict and even had some fun with it and had good times with it, maybe even met great friends, maybe even their spouse, through things connected with what later became an addiction. It's organic, it's drift, but there comes a point, and maybe they were always going to end up like that, and it's usually the case. And so yes, on balance, it was always bad. But the curve, or the ascent that led to it being obvious it was really bad, it isn't always as simple as it's black or white. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's so the narcissistic world, the narcissistic parent, and the narcissistic child, even the victim, they end up kind of stuck with this polarization of everything being black or white, good or bad. And we bring that forward into our life. And so it was that I lost any capacity to sort of judge my worth or my life as being, you know, it being okay. I had to be really well recognized for me to be aloof with myself. I put a lot of work into that, and I was very good. But it wasn't good for me to do it, because I was actually feeding the narcissistic snake, if you like. Not that I was becoming a narcissist, but I was continuing the practices of the cult I was part of by trying to prove I was a good guy, that I excelled at something. Because the horrible truth was, I'm actually quite incompetent as a person. I don't know how much of that is to do with my illness, how much of that is to do with the way I was raised, and how much of it is to do with not being taught anything properly, because they don't really teach you things properly, because they want you to be completely dependent upon them, and that's an extremely big part of narcissistic abuse. So they deliberately withhold important information. That's also something that's part of Luciferianism, by the way, interestingly. Luciferians believe in withholding knowledge that could benefit you. So what I found out recently is that it's not my job to be that person I thought I was going to be. It's not my job to get well and make an impact on the world in whatever way I possibly could. I had some pretty big ideas about what that would be. I'm still grieving that, because even though it's turned out to be a kind of sort of a lead like weight that I've been carrying around. It's you fall in love with a version of yourself that you are going to chase like a carrot on the end of a stick for a donkey. I'm still working it out. What it turns out, I think, that the scapegoat's job is, and this is so sad, but once we accept it, I think it actually makes things a little bit easier. Is our job is to be sacrificed for these foolish, dangerous, pathologically ignorant people, which sounds horrific, but that's not the end of it. This is going to be a bit of a shock. With that sacrifice, which will cost you, it may cost you your youth, it may cost you a family life, it might cost you your emotional and or physical health. But if you think about the story of Jesus and Christ, and I mean that as two different concepts, Jesus the person and then Jesus becoming Christ the Saviour and stuff like that. I'm not saying that every scapegoat should be compare themselves to Jesus for the obvious reasons of the psychiatric hernias that would create all over the universe every time any of us went into fucking assessment. What I'm saying is, I personally believe what the Jesus story is about freedom and a alignment with divinity coming with the most extreme sacrifice you can imagine. We don't get the life we wanted. We don't even get an ordinary life. Some people are much less egocentric than me who have gone through this. They didn't want to be highly successful or, you know, they just wanted a family. They just wanted to have a nice house. They just wanted to have whatever it is. We might not get it. You might get it, something, but you're not likely to get it on the terms you want, when you want. That expectation, that even, I don't want to say entitlement because it's not fair on people that have been denied so much, you know. But if you compare sacrifice with entitlement, you can kind of see what I mean. Like, imagine if our job is to be sacrificed, but not in a kind of like surrender to the enemy, give up your life so they may live way, although that's in there. I mean, so that we free ourselves, not just of them, but of the whole worldly matrix. Because the whole world is narcissistic. It might be vanilla narcissism, it might be a default narcissism, but it is narcissistic. You know it is. Just look at it. If you're competing, if you're fighting, if you're striving to be recognized and validated, you're entering into the narcissistic idiom. Think about that. And we don't have to. It's not that we are like Jesus, which would be a stupid thing to say. It's that the Jesus concept will give you strength. The concept of sacrifice. I don't mean be a pushover and be a victim. I mean understand what's happened. Understand the hand you've been dealt. Understand you may not come out of this, you know, king of the world. And be okay with it. And when you fight against it, when you hate it, when you want to whine and moan about how it's not fair, go to the sacrifice. Go, I get it. I'm the sacrifice. Because that's not the end of the story. It's not that you are sacrificed and you die and that's it. It's the beginning of your freedom. It's the beginning of not being locked into the narcissistic matrix. Do you see? It's the golden ticket that comes in a box full of nettles. But you don't see it until you grab that ticket, take it to the place, and step through that door. Ah, that was a hard video to make. I'm not sure when to stop it. I think I should probably stop. I hope you understand this is not a comparing us with Jesus thing. I've really tried to make that clear. It's the other way round. It's for me, it's realizing the Jesus story all over again after years of being back and forth with it, going into agnosticism, atheism, agnosticism, having a very powerful experience when I was looking after my mom that completely changed how I think and feel about all of it. You know, however you interpret the whole Jesus thing, whether he was purely a historical figure or the Son of God, right? I believe it's an entirely personal thing. If it isn't an entirely personal thing, it's meaningless. Okay? There might be a fundamental truth, but one has to figure it out for themselves. That's the point. But so if you're a dyed-in-the-wool agnostic, atheist, and you refuse to accept that, you've still got the fundamental message, which is that there is a sacrifice in the fundamental act or representation of it all. If you will, if you have to go there, in the story of it, that somebody would make a sacrifice of inexplicable proportions for the betterment of others, and the sacrifice defines you and frees you. It's complicated and it's messy and it sounds like Sunday school stuff, but I've tried. It's a model to give you strength when you've been raised in a world that's told you don't mean anything if you don't achieve your dreams. And if you've been raised in we've been raised in a narcissistic world. If you've been raised in a narcissistic world by narcissistic family, not parents, or in a narcissistic family unit, then not only are you dealing with this unrealistic vision of what having an identity and having a sense of worth looks like, but you've been denied the opportunity to develop in a way where you could pursue it at all effectively anyway. Right, I'm going to end the video. I'm not expecting this to be a very popular one. I'll see you later.